Yes, sir, we are live. Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Sharish. Thank you. Please put the welcome screen. So, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, our friends from various part of the countries, from various education institutions. Myself, Neeraj Arora. I am Senior Director at ASSOCHAM and look after the education vertical. I would like to welcome you all on behalf of ASSOCHAM and Presidency University for this another wonderful webinar. So friends, our today's webinar is on preparing the next generation for a future-proof career. And for the discussion, we have galaxy of speakers, starting with Shri Subbarao. Shri Subbarao is the IAS retired, Principal Economic Advisor, Ministry of Rural Development and Senior Advisor, Ministry of Education, Government of India. Welcome, Subbarao. We have Dr. S.S. Mantha, Chancellor, KL University, and former Chairman AICT. Welcome, Dr. S.S. Mantha. We have Dr. Sunil Mehruji, Joint Director, Software Consortium of Educational Communication. Welcome, Dr. Sunil Mehruji.
Thank you
We
and
have
namaskar.
Professor Rajan Saxena ji, former Vice Chancellor, NMIMS University. Welcome, Professor Saxena. Then we have Dr. R.C. Sharma ji, Associate Professor, School of Global Affairs, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar University. Welcome, Dr. Saxena, Dr. Sharma, sorry. We have Mr. Supriyo Guharoy ji, Dr. Director, Presidency University, Bangalore. Welcome, Supriyo ji. And then we have Dr. Kunal Saxena ji with us. Kunal Saxena ji is the Associate Director, Marketing, Presidency University, Bangalore. And Dr. Kunal is the moderator for the day. So I would like to give a brief introduction of Dr. Kunal Saxena ji. He is a digital marketing expert and data specialist and strategic marketing leader with 14 years of rich experience in technology, IMFL, and the educational domain. He is currently involved in the project related to the GPS, maps, and is also contributing in the field of education. He is a data specialist, which involves extensive use of artificial intelligence, machine learning, sentimental analysis, for which he has presented various papers in various prestigious institutions, including Harvard, Stanford, and all IIMs. In his last assignment, he was involved in project in IBM Gurgaon and was leading the team of network analysts and has achieved a great milestone for Bell Technologies in Canada. And prior to this, he dropped out of MBBS. Dr. Kunal is a global trotter and visited almost 72 countries as and when his work and projects had demanded. He has a great command over almost 34 languages and as a prominent speaker at IIM Ahmedabad, ISB Hyderabad, Valinkar Alliance, Narsi Monji, Institute of Technology, Harvard, and the list goes on, where he had been given thoughts on the recent trends in various generation of marketing and business management. He trains professionals on digital marketing, integrated marketing communications, supply chain, retail, international marketing, etc. So, Dr. Kunalji, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Neeraj. Thank you very much. So nice of you for giving my introduction. Good morning, namaste, sat sri akal to everybody from all the parts of the country and the world who are here to witness this panel discussion. One word I would really agree with you, Mr. Neeraj, what you said just now, galaxy of speakers. When I saw the profile first, actually the term galaxy sounds very apt for this particular event today. I welcome you all once again on the behalf of ASSOCHAM and Presidency University. I welcome all the respected panelists from different walks of life. Welcome again, sir. The topic, dear audience, today we are talking about preparing the next gen for a future-proof career. Now, if you see, the topic itself is a question. Are we really preparing them? Are they getting prepared? Or there is something which is required extra in terms of hand pulling in today's scenario, especially keeping pandemic in mind, for having a future-proof career. Now, this future-proof word itself is having so many things related to it in terms of the research aspect of it. And that is why we have the galaxy of speakers here. I'll just set the context for you people to understand why we all of us are here right now today on this podium. See, when we talk about career, when we talk about making it proof, leave future, past, and present, leave all the tenses of life, which makes us tense again. We talk about how do we remain competent, right? Now, the different ways what people speak today, all the learned speakers all across the world, including Peter Drucker, Warren Buffett, the people who are talking about ASSOCHAM, Elon Musk and all, what they speak about, they say, if you want to have a future-proof career, you should remain tech savvy. That again is a question to ourselves. Are we ready for that? Next, we should develop the skills which we can carry with us in all walks of life and has to change as in when the environment and the scenario changes. Can be any point of time. Next, build a professional network. Now, this is a very important statement. Build a professional network because today your network is your net worth. I think this is a very profound statement what people talk about. Your network is your net worth. Looking at all these, now let's talk about as we have entered the third decade of the 21st century, where it is becoming increasingly clear that today artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, augmented reality, virtual reality are running our daily lives. Starting from Hey Alexa to Okay Google, and even Hey MG, can I see the sky? Opening the sunroof in your car. Today everything is voice and vocal based, but it all involves humongous involvement of technology and investment. Now, are we ready for that? So, keeping this as an imperative for the future work for life and making the workforce also built for it, today we have great panel members over here who are going to speak one after the other. So, can we change the slide, please? I am really honored to introduce to you Mr. Subbarao, who is IAS retired principal advisor, economic advisor to Ministry of Rural Development, also the senior advisor for Ministry of Education. Mr. Subbarao is a retired IAS officer of the 1985 batch. He did his BA in economics from Madras Christian College, Chennai, and masters in economics from Delhi School of Economics, University of Delhi in 1984. In his career of 35 plus years in the IAS, he discharged duties across a diverse set of ministries and departments of Government of India, like petroleum and natural gas, financial services, rural development, higher education, planning commission, MSME, labor and employment, Ministry of Commerce, Government of Andhra Pradesh, etc. He holds close to his heart his most important stint at the Ministry of Human Resource Development as a senior economic advisor from September 2016 to March 2020, where he was in charge of key subjects like deemed universities, IISERs, higher education financing agencies, institutions of eminence, and the promotion of apprenticeship and skill embedded degree courses in Indian colleges through the sector skill councils. He has pioneered the exercise where as many as 200 colleges in the country are going to offer skill embedded degree courses in niche areas of industry demand, highly demanded skills in ensuring academic career. Sir, we welcome you to this panel discussion. So you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, I've unmuted. Thank you so much. I see that I have 8 minutes to speak. Today is Wednesday, the day of Lord Vishnu, and 8 is the Ashtakshari. Om Namo Narayanaya. So the portents are good. So here we go. So, gentlemen, very good morning to you. And the topic itself today, future-proofing education, is it could not have been more topical at the moment. The juncture that we are sitting at, nobody would have imagined the kind of precarious conditions that have enveloped the world in across all spaces, be it industry, be it service sector, be it growth. And then from that, you derive those implications into the education system. So first of all, when growth, industry, and service sectors themselves were not anticipating or being prepared for such cataclysmic changes which have come about. So education system will only respond to whatever is happening in these sectors. So the problem is there's a very big bundle in front of us to unwrap, decipher, and then solve. So how do we look at the future? And then we talk of future-proofing our own kids. So today, if you look at it, when the pandemic broke out, it made us relook at our own future. So working from home, industries, de-staffing themselves to a large extent, trying to see how best they can re-engineer their processes. Re-engineering of the economic environment is taking place at a very rapid scale. And therefore, technologies, not just the technologies, but knowledge-driven frameworks are being introduced into the world across countries like the US, for example, is the leader. It's a knowledge-driven economy. It's surviving today at the very top only because it's a knowledge-driven economy. Unlike even China and all, which are still manufacturing driven. When you move to a knowledge driven economy, you anticipate. You're supposed to set the standards for thought process. There's only great minds that drive great economies, and then finally great education system also. We nurture those great minds in our education system. So in this fast changing milieu, so many things have happened. For example, just 2 years ago, we were thinking in the Ministry of Education that artificial intelligence will still take some time to establish itself in India. So then there will be good universities offering those courses. And then the demand for artificial intelligence perhaps will come after, say, 5 to 6 years and so on. That was a thought process. Then came the pandemic, and overnight, you find that artificial intelligence being adopted on an immediate scale, practically. And in a place like Hyderabad, there's a place, Amirpet, where every second building has courses in artificial intelligence all over the place. So how credible are these courses? That's another separate issue. Nothing is credible in India unless it is rooted through the education system, the university system, nurtured through the school education system. So that is what we are confronted with today, a very, very rapidly changing knowledge-driven framework that is in front of us. So is first of all the school system. Is the school system ready for getting future-proofed? First of all, we have to see whether it is current, leave alone the future-proofing it. Currently, no. We are packing our kids' minds and their daily routine with so much of material. We've added so much over time, but we have not deleted what is less important, nor even tried to attempt to compress the syllabus. That is the number one essential. We are attempting changes in the higher education system in terms of domain skills and so many other skills, and trying to backward integrate into the school education system. But actually, it should be the other way around. Our schools, if you see the new education policy as policy statements, all are there. Everything is there in the school education policy without any direct mention of future proofing. But yes, because it's only a policy is an indicator. We have to see in a dynamic, concurrent manner, how do we go about this task? The most important thing is we do not load our kids with information, we stimulate their minds. That is the first thing. So at a very early stage, at home, they observe their parents and learn. In the college, they get stimulated by their gurus in the school. So the cognitive skills, the observational, the observation, the keenness, the curiosity and the observation, and thereby you derive their aptitude for certain things. Is he inclined towards pedagogy? Is he not the academic type? Talent? Could it be creativity? All these have to be sorted out by the time he's in class 8 or maximum, say, by class 9. That is how the education system should be oriented towards. And therefore, communication skills, cognitive skills, analytical skills, all these have to be a part of the curriculum in the school education system itself. It was about 20 years ago when we used the word skills. We only used to talk about Arjun's skills in archery and so on. But now the word skills is all pervading. It's all pervading. Just about everything is a skill. Communication skills is the most common, cognitive and analytical. These three words coupled with skills, we use it almost on a daily basis now in the education system, but it's time to operationalize it. So these skills have to be integrated into our school education system. The policy says that from class 6 onwards, we are going to integrate skills into the school curriculum, but it is yet to be seen. Although in about 13,000 schools in the country, different kinds of skills are being offered to the kids, but as an addendum to the curriculum, not as an integrate. So it's an extra load in addition to the already burdened curriculum. That's very important. It has to be integrated into at the cost of certain other papers, just like the choice-based credit system in the university system. In the school education also, from about class 7 or 8, there's no point putting the child through history, sociology, maths or physics. I myself was scared of maths in my schooling. I went to a fairly good school, and I once in class 10, I told my mother I'm not going to school because I hate maths. I'm not able to. But then my father and mother were wise enough to see that I do have some other writing abilities and other skills. So they put me into the art subjects and so on. But not everybody is lucky to have such parents where the dictum is you go through engineering or medicine. Otherwise, you go here, there. Finally, they go into some degree just for the sake of a degree. Because Purush ka lakshan hai kuch padhai karna aur kaam karna. So why should he do history and sociology at all when at the end of a degree, he's not even going to get a job? So that is why identification of the skills is necessary so that immediately after +2, he goes into some domain skill or the other based on the aptitude that he has displayed. So we have to install the kind of architecture and processes in the school education system. There should be, by the time a kid passes out of class 12, there should be a domain skill inherent in him, in addition to his analytical and other cognitive skills that are there. So the syllabus has to undergo a rapid transformation. And then when such a student enters the higher education system, he chooses a skill education, like in China, like in Korea or anything. There's a huge architecture of skill education ready to support a kid in case he says no to pure academics. So you have vertical pathways from that into MBA courses and so on. It's a very flexible movement. Industry supports that kind of an arrangement. Industry will support the skill process and the aligning of curriculum, provided you give it the opportunity. So right now, industry integration is only left to the enterprise of those private universities and certain other universities, but it's not, as a system, it has not been established. It has to be made almost mandatory that colleges, universities should have the necessary industry connect. And by making it mandatory, issuing a circular from UGC or AICT doesn't help. You have to actually create the ecosystem for that. That's where the government has a role in it. So when skills are being adopted on a wider scale by students as a matter of choice, by students who have displayed a certain aptitude right in their school education system, then you move towards a very flexible framework, a flexible mind which can adapt itself to any situation. So future proofing is nothing but flexibility and the constant dynamism displayed both by the industry, the ability of the student to change is something which has to be displayed at a very early stage, because industry will change irrespective, otherwise it will perish. So the education system has to catch up with industry once the two are aligned. We have in the Ministry of Education, working through the sector skill councils, developed many courses through the logistics segment, in the media and entertainment segment, where we had developed courses in BSc, graphics, gaming, animation, etc. And logistics, in the logistics segment, we BBA in logistics, BBA in agri supply chain management. All these are skill oriented to kind of pick out those students who have not been able to catch up with academic content. And very, very important thing in our education system, which is a must, is from class 9 and 11 onwards, this internship. The word internship is not used as a placement in some company for 2-3 months. And internship in its generic application can mean just about anything. You can have an internship with a local farmer, observe how cultivation is going on. You can have an internship with a local collectorate office, spend 1 month with the Tahsildar, see how things are going, how land revenues. You can have internship in a local agro-based industry for schools and colleges in the hinterland. Internship in Assam can be in a timber mill also, where next to the college you have a timber mill to observe. I mean, it's all, and internship can come in the form of problem statements being given by the local industry to students in a particular class when all the students cannot go to a particular industry. So this kind of an exposure to real life practical situations is the first step towards future proofing. And the future proofing is very, very important, because it's going to be built around information science and data science. So data science, information science, now apart from IT skills in the school education system, the basics of data science also has to be inculcated into them. So it should become a formal part. It should be built in seamlessly into the curriculum right from class 9 onward, the data science skills, so that as you go higher and higher, if you're not equipped with information science skills, you'll not be able to catch on to the developments. If you suddenly go abroad today, our Indian students are still able to, from the IITs and so on, are still able to match their Western counterparts only because they're groomed so well in IT and data science related skills. That's why they're able to catch up with it. And then they don't come back to India after that, because once they get into that ecosystem, they're used to a particular way of functioning. And so they stand future-proofed in all senses of the world. And future-proofing is very important in the Indian context because this concept of a circular economy has to be built. That is a must today. Resources are finite. We cannot keep exploiting them left, right, and center the way we are doing at the moment. And therefore, the reuse and recycling, every course and every technology whose knowledge is imparted has to be carried to its logical conclusion in terms of reusing and recycling. The circular economy, every university should have, climate change has already come in as a subject. The circular economy is something which should come as a subject into at least some key niche. These are the graduates and postgraduates who are going to save this earth. And data science into the school curriculum, cognitive, analytical, and mind-stimulating content in the school education system, and a degree and postgraduate system that is flexible, built around choice, built around the choice of domain skills of the students, and the research. Research also plays an important role in the future because the research has to be translational research. That is non-negotiable. It cannot be research for its own sake, where often the outcomes of research are usually the need for more research, like it goes on even in organizations like Indian Institute of Science, etc. You really never see the end product of such research. I used to deal with Indian Institute of Science. I used to deal with ISAs, so I have a fairly good exposure to all these things. So the research, the content of research also has to be oriented towards the fast-changing dynamics of the world. School, higher, and research. All this and the concept of a circular economy has to be built into the structure of our education system. So it's a very, very huge challenge, and the new education policy is so generic, it actually gives scope for just about everything. But when you drop the implementation plan, some of these factors have to be built into that. So remember that circular economy is very important because when the sun sets in the evening, it makes a promise that it will rise again the next morning. A promise which it never fails to keep day after day. Can you imagine what would happen if the sun fails in its promise even for one day? Will the world be able to tackle it? So similarly, the oceans, the mountains, the forests, all of them have made a promise to us in some sense or other. We don't have to keep any promise towards them. We have to just enable them to keep their promise to us. That's all that is being sought after here.
Sir. I really agree with what you have said. It is really well knit from your side. I truly appreciate, and the way you have put in the words like observation, pedagogy, skills, and you gave a personal example of your own life of, I'll not use that word, but yeah, having some side effect with mathematics was really, taking us back to our school days. And yes, when you summarize by saying the sun's promise, but I'll just give you one 30-second, one small question, sir, before we move on to the next panelist. You can answer this in 30 to 45 seconds. Now, I'll take you to an economic word, that talks about low gross enrollment ratio, right? Now, when we talk about this, what do you think, the private as well as the low gross enrollment ratio, GER, gross enrollment ratio. Hello?
What was your question? Okay. Yeah.
Low gross enrollment ratio. Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
what role do you think? What role do you think the government and the private universities can play in ensuring future workforce has to be made ready for the challenges they face with the advent of new technology? Since you come from the economic background, that's why I put in this question.
Yeah. Basically, you want to relate the gross enrollment ratio with the challenges of the growing economy.
Of technology. Yeah.
Fine. And if the gross enrollment ratio is purely at the school level is purely being seen in terms of literacy and getting them to the higher education level, no, that along. There is this quality component which has to be packed into it. Actually, these two have to go hand in hand. The enrollment should be higher. At the same time, the other twin objective of modification of the content, both have to go hand in hand, and together they will determine the kind of output that goes into the higher education system. And looking at this output, the higher education system should reorient its structure to accommodate the multifarious. You will suddenly realize the kind of demand that is there for different kinds of skills, courses, practices, once your school education is groomed in a particular way. So the enrollment ratio at the school level, the higher it is, it throws up humongous challenges for the higher education system because we may not have short-term capacity expansion in the higher education system may or may not be possible all the time. So the distance learning and there's so many other online learning. There's online learning which has now become a necessity now. That has to be a major portion of our learning, has to be mixed, blended into online classes. For example, political science, sociology, such courses should be straight away shifted into online mode, releasing some valuable classroom space for laboratories, for skilling, and for so on. So with enrollment ratio and the quality change at the school level, that will release quality student force and then gradually the quality workforce towards a rapidly changing economy. So the industry connect should be there right from the school. Thank you.
I hope all the audiences from the educational domain who are watching us have made a note of it. Sarveda made a very important point in terms of shifting offline, online courses and the name of those subjects as well. Fine. Thank you very much, sir. My heartfelt gratitude to you for speaking out your heart here. Thank you. Moving on to the next speaker for the day. We move on to yet another dynamic personality, Dr. S.S. Mahanta, Chancellor KL University and former Chairman AICTE. So we are very grateful that you are a part of this, podium today. I'll just take this opportunity to introduce you to the audience. Dr. S.S. Mahanta, an eminent academician and an able administrator, was the chairman of All India Council of Technical Education, starting from 5th January 2012 till 4th January 2015. Having joined AICTE in March 2009 as its vice chairman, he has been at the forefront of bringing in some radical changes of transparency and accountability in its administration. On completion of the tenure at AICTE, he worked as professor of robotics, computer-aided designing and computer-aided manufacturing, for those of you who are seeing this abbreviation of CAD and CAM, and AI in the Department of Mechanical Engineering at VJTI, Mumbai, and superannuated on 31st May 2016. I welcome you to the gathering, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kunal, and thank you all my co-panelists. First of all, a good morning to you all, and I thank Presidency University and ASSOCHAM for having invited me to this program. They're all, endowed with a lot of hindsight, and therefore we tend to look back many times and look at things where probably we have gone wrong, or probably consolidate those where we have been right. And that's how the world moves. Now, Subbarao made some important observations, and the point is we all live with respect to a context, and therefore we must probably look at the current context and the topic of the day, preparing the next generation for a future-proof career. Now, having said that, the issue really is, what I would probably do is, without getting into the semantics, we'll try and see what exactly the next generation needs in terms of, securing their career. A question we often ask is, what does the next generation students want out of education? This is something that we keep discussing all the time in almost every, panel discussion. Probably they need decent employment, knowledge, values, and citizenship. They all are somehow complementary. And decent living will get probably everything else for them. So going forward, what skills will be required? And I'm again mentioning this in the context that we live in today, without getting into what probably should have been, or what probably is, or what the future could develop into. So the current context requires certain kind of skill sets, and that defines the future proof career. Can there ever be a future proof career? This is an extremely important question. And in a technical domain, in a technical education domain, I would say, though core engineering disciplines like civil, mechanical, electrical, they have an extremely important role in driving the industry today. Their potential to generate new job opportunities is low compared to other disciplines like IT or computer science and so on. And because of the primary and the secondary employment sector not doing so very well as we desire, the tertiary sector of the services seems to be growing, and that's where most of the educated people, whether they are from technology or other areas, are getting into. And probably that is where a lot of underutilization of the skills that are there, with the student happens. The technology in most of the products, whether consumer, whether used in, for consumer services or in defense or anywhere, they're all a mix of mechanical, electrical, electronics, communications, computer science, materials, besides several other disciplines. Today, you won't find a single object which is purely mechanical engineering based or electrical engineering based and so on. Therefore, the new graduate, must understand the interplay between them as much as understanding each one of them. Therein lies the opportunity for new job roles. Now, skill sets are required at entry-level jobs seem to be changing due to automation. There's a lot of automation that has come into our working, and the skill sets that are required even at the entry-level jobs seem to be getting in order, higher and higher in order. One big example is the robotics process automation and what it has done to our industry. A discussion paper of the McKinsey Global Institute in May 2018 reports that automation will accelerate the shift in required workforce skills over the next 15 years. And automation probably is there everywhere in every segment of the industry today. Now, we all are aware of the pyramid-like job structure, and more number of people with less skills required at the base. And as you go up, their skill sets, the order keeps increasing, but the numbers keep reducing. This is the typical pyramid-like job structure that we know of. But that is now changing to almost a vertical pipe-like structure. Base of the pyramid of employment market is actually shrinking. Today, we need lesser number at the base, but with higher order skills. Even the shelf life of skills that we get maybe inside the university, maybe outside the university, that shelf life of skills is coming down with every technology intervention. So the question is, what can the student do? Now, if that be the case, even a student doesn't even know what kind of job is available to him in 4 years' time when he actually graduates. So what kind of proofing that he has to do? A student often asks, where will the new jobs be? Automation testing for one, in software industry, business process automation, industrial automation, control and robotics process automation. They're all areas to reckon with, for they will extensively use artificial intelligence and the new technologies in future. So therefore, there is some amount of effort that must be made, irrespective of what discipline one is going through, in order to make the future a little better. Now, be it the online shopping site, or the online credit card application processing, which we must be using every single day, transaction-based activities, software testing, regression, large-scale automation, everywhere RPA is being used. Entire KYC is RPA driven. Now, therefore, requisite skills in order to work in those areas is extremely important. Another question student asks is, are skills required or acquired in 2017, 2015 relevant today? Now, the simple answer is no skill will ever be a waste. Every skill that you acquire has some value, but the change must not be missed. What one correctly recognized is that data science is required in every sector of problem solving. I mean, everywhere you go, people will tell you data science, data analytics. You know, these are the places where jobs are available. So a mechanical engineer also does specialized courses in that. A computer science guy does the same thing, and so on. So data science may be required, but what is being missed out is that the hiring standards every single year require much higher skills even in data science than those acquired maybe in the universities, maybe outside. Python skills, working with Jupyter notebooks, they're all important. And again, this is contextual. Maybe in 4 or 5 years time, things will again start changing. Starting with a more conventional skit-like type data science job and migrating to deep learning will probably create a cushion for the next probably 10 years time, which I'm sure will be the demand side requirement. And we all know full stack developers, and these are all essentially computer science areas. And the requirement is so high today, and maybe for the next 3-4 years, the requirement will be so high that sometimes the companies are asking data science experts to toggle with the new skill sets and so on. We also hear of Industry 4.0 and massive automation. In every single area, I'm talking of automation. When I'm talking of Industry 4.0, there is again massive automation. And Industry 4.0 will be driven by Labor 4.0. And therefore, Labor 4.0 skill sets will be required. And what are they? Again, AI, machine learning, deep learning, robotics, cloud technology, blockchain. They're all very, very important. Cyber-physical systems, if you know, is almost everywhere. The IoT that we are talking about, the different devices connected together, it's all acquiring such skill sets where you make a difference to the cyber-physical system requirements in the industry will make you probably future proof for some years at least. Now, an emerging market, I'll just take 3-4 minutes. An emerging market is the gaming industry. And there are huge opportunities within the gaming industry. And the global data, was available says that about it's an industry of $300 billion by 2025. I said if the skills cannot be learned in the university, they must be learned outside it. Certifications of edX, Coursera, LinkedIn, Udemy, or similar in applied areas must be required for good placements. Value-added courses, experiential learning, they are all very, very important. As the NEP proposes, unbundling credits, new certifications, and collaborations will be required. From a university perspective, they will need to provide this opportunity to the students to get into those areas and so on. Now, besides the technical domain-specific skills, Subaraji also mentioned about a few of them. One must excel in complex problem-solving, critical thinking, creativity, cognitive flexibility, emotional intelligence, judgment, decision-making, and so on. But all said and done, if domain skills are found wanting, everything said is futile. The country is transforming into digital economy. As the technology marches ahead, the contours of existing jobs are continuously changing. While some have become obsolete, new opportunities are emerging. So therefore, I must say, I did not have all these skills when I graduated. I can only envy the current lot sometimes and be nonplussed at other times at their plight. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. When you were talking, you spoke a very important phrase, I would say, because which is the talk of the town, and probably it can come from you only, saying that for the industry 4.0, we need labor 4.0. I'll just take 10 seconds of yours. At Presidency University, Bangalore, our honorable chairman, Sri Nishar Ahmed, also believes in the same philosophy, saying that if you want to have the industry ready, then you should have the industry craftsmen also ready. And this is the way we are running our pedagogy here. And there is a lot I would share with you at Presidency. But I had a question for you, sir, but I'll post it at the question answer session for you that time, because right now we have other people also in the line. But a few important snippets when you talk about, decent employment, decent living, the new graduate should understand the interplay between the skills. And of course, at the entry level, the jobs are changing because of automation. And these are the few takeaways I've taken. And I think audience, you should also listen to this very carefully, because this is going to be a hurdle when it comes to answering questions after 4 years when you are going to enter the corporate world as an engineer. Thank you very much, sir. We move on to the next speaker for the day. The next speaker for the day, Dr. Sunil Mehru, Joint Director Software Consortium for Educational Communication. Dr. Sunil Mehru, media professional, ICT policy planner, and a designer, has done his honors, MPhil, and doctorate. He has experience of more than 20 years in crafting professional communication by experimenting and implementing innovative learning pedagogies to ensure optimum use of ICT in dissemination of education. Dr. Mehru is presently the Joint Director, Software and Consortium for Educational Communication and Inter-University Center of University Grants Commission, that is UGC, New Delhi. As a Joint Director, he has been engaged in coordination with 21 media centers, quite a task, sir, throughout the country, and coordinates a national telecast of Vikas Higher Education Channel in India. So we welcome you to this gathering today and very eager to listen from you, sir.
Thank you so much. Namaskar, ASSOCHAM organizers, Senior Director and Head, Mr. Neeraj Arora sir, distinguished and honorable fellow speakers, and Subharao sir, Dr. S.S. Mantha sir, Professor Rajan Saxena sir, Dr. R.C. Sharma sir, Subriyo sir, moderator Dr. Gulam Saxena ji, and Deepak. Since time allotted to me is very less, I would like to jump upon to the reply of the question framed for me. But the question which was framed for me is, will technologies like AI, robotics, seamless communication system cause huge job losses? And if so, what is the way forward for the future generation? Dear friends, digital world nonetheless remain physical. The fact that we download music does not prevent us to attend concerts. Billions of books are printed on paper despite the fact that they are digital. University campuses still have lecture rooms, labs,
Sir, can you please move near the system, please?
facilities.
Your voice is very low.
Okay, sir, please.
Yeah.
Now
yeah,
it is audible,
better.
sir? Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, yes, sir. So sorry.
University campus. Now it's audible, na? University campuses still have lecture rooms, laboratories, cafeterias, sports facilities. But digital does not mean virtual. The digital world does not replace the physical space. Educational institutions are made of two interwoven realms, the physical and the digital space. Campuses are both physical artifacts and digital entities, as robots or 3D printed objects are. And finally, artificial intelligence itself is artificial and not real. Please remember, technology can facilitate humans, but cannot create humans. If artificial intelligence and robotics can make us learn, then why we speakers like Mahanta sir, Rao sir are there to teach? Again, I would like to say that the metaphor of tsunami, see, conveys the force and fear of the occurrence. Tsunamis, earthquakes, and volcano eruptions are the visible scares of the deeper but invisible movement of tectonic plates. Likewise, there is a slower, deeper, and more fundamental movement, namely the evolution of the digital era. Educational institutions all over the world have already become digital entities, but have not yet adopted the strategies to this reality. Online or blended education is only a facet of the evaluation. The greatest share of tech participants in canvassing automated systems driven by artificial intelligence are already improving with its many dimensions and expected to continue over the next decade. Technology progression and advancement has always been met with fear and anxiety, giving way to tremendous gains for humankind as we learn to enhance the best of the changes and adopt and alter the worst. So teaching, it will enhance knowledge, AI or robotics, enhance knowledge about student progress and how to meet individual or individualized needs. It will offer guidance, options based on the unique performances or preferences of students that can guide learning and career goals. A small vision, because since time is given me of I think 6 minutes, so I would like to add just a vision for participants and to share with fellow colleagues and guests also. See, 2030 is only 9 years from now. So I expect that systems like Alexa and Siri will be more helpful. AI will be a useful tool. I am quite a ways away from fearing Skynet and the rise of the machines. AI will provide major benefits or produce major benefits in the next 10 to 15 years. But ultimately, the question is one of politics. Will the world somehow manage to listen to the economists, even when they find or when the findings are uncomfortable to the audience? I strongly believe that an increasing use of numerical control will improve the lives of people in general. AI will help us navigate choices, find safer routes and avenues for work and play, and help make our choices and work more consistent. Finally, to conclude, friends, the fate of humanity and its institutions depend upon our resilience. On the face of pandemic, it is time that we grid upon alliance and be prepared with dynamic responses, the adaptations and integration in the new self of society. Change is the only constant, and even during unpredictable conditions, we will put our best foot forward as long as humankind has existed. Disasters have continued to occur, and human presence or persistence have won the day again and again. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Sunil. Thank you very much. Nobody else could give a better overview of technology apart from you. I mean, sir, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I was really fascinated with the examples you gave in. Really nice. Thank you very much, sir. I do have a question, but we'll take it to the question and answer session. Another question which arose in my mind, sir. So please stay along and then we'll come back to you. Moving on to the next speaker for the day, dear audiences. I hope by now you would have got a clear picture of what the next generation has to do to some extent in order to make a future-proof career. I think some snippet of that has been made clear to you by the knowledge or the information being imparted by our esteemed panelists over here. Moving on to the next speaker for the day. We have Professor Rajan Saxena, who was the former Vice Chancellor of NMIMS University. Professor Rajan Saxena is an Indian management expert, academic writer. He is a former Vice Chancellor of SVKM's NMIMS, a deemed university in Mumbai, a former Director of Indian Institute of Management, Indore, SP Jain Institute of Management and Research, and ICFI Business School, Gurgaon. He is also a recipient of the BERG Education Award for 2014. Dr. Saxena, who set up the IIM Indore as its first director, took over as the Vice Chancellor of NMIMS in 2009. Under his leadership, NMIMS improved its tie-ups with reputed foreign universities and was also invited by GMAC to be its member. Dr. Saxena was instrumental in establishing the School of Economics and School of Law and other NMIMS campuses at Bengaluru and Hyderabad. So we welcome you. It is giving me a lot of proud because the moment it says Dr. Saxena, it resonates a lot. So, it was giving a lot of delight from inside while reading out your profile. But before you speak on, sir, I have something in store which you can also address to. While we have all others have spoken till now about the future-proof careership, I would also add, request you to add something related to the ability to unlearn and relearn in terms of the learning systems to be built because you come from that background. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kunal, for this kind of an introduction. Well, it's been now since 2020 that I superannuated in the month of March, and I have been trying to help the institutions who are wanting to really grow or who are wanting to really improve their systems. It's a pleasure to be over here with you all. Thank you very much, ASSOCHAM and Presidency University for inviting me over to be a part of this distinguished panel, which had Dr. Rao and also Dr. Mandha and Sharma and others in this panel. Well, the topic is a very interesting topic. I'll take a little break from where I would, and I'll try and weave in what I'm really wanting to put it in there. I won't really take a technology route, or I won't really talk about the technology skills, which have been beautifully talked about by Dr. Mantha and by Dr. Nehru. And And I don't think anybody can really talk about it. Dr. Mantha had a very vast experience, especially when he was heading the AICTE and his understanding of the technology world itself. I like to ask, I was asking myself a question. Can I prepare a student for a career which is a future proof? Can I ever be prepared for future? Can I say I'm now future proof? Now the very nature of future is uncertainty. Now, there is no certain future. If we know what is going to be happening tomorrow, then I think we can easily prepare ourselves for tomorrow. But my worry is that I don't know what is going to be coming in tomorrow. I don't think anybody knew, say, before this pandemic broke out last year, that this kind of a situation is going to be happening, that everything is going to come to a stop, and that whatever we have learned, we will have to relearn everything, or we will have to unlearn whatever else. The pandemic has shown that, and in very strong manner. No matter what skills I have really acquired in the university or in other places, the fact is that the new world requires new understanding and the new and I would say, let's say the getting ready for the new kind of environment itself, the new ecosystem which is now going to be evolving. Now, what best I can do is to prepare myself for future. Obviously, technology is right in the center. Technology is today influencing my life. I am today, I mean, even when I'm not really, I would say, like the Gen Z, I'm not at that age. None of us are at that age. We are like the migrants to the technology world. Most of the world today is a migrant to the digital world itself. We are acquiring the digital skills. Now, if that is really happening, then how are we acquiring? How does the individual really learn? So what is it that is going to be important? And I think what is really coming up very clearly is that no learning that has happened in the past is really going to be relevant. And therefore, I will have to continue to learn through my life itself, not just merely for work, but even to live this life. So the life skills, the technology skills, the managerial skills, the people skills are as important today as, let us say, some of the other kind of life skills, like for example, let's manage my own emotions, and how do I really ensure myself
I think sir has little connectivity issue. I really apologize for the inconvenience, audiences.
important.
Yeah, I think sir lost you for the last 5 seconds.
Is it okay? Am I now? Is it
Yeah,
fine now?
yes.
Because this is where the technology fails. This is where despite everything that happens, this is the limitation of the technology world itself.
Agree, sir. Agree.
Of the bandwidth and everything that we talk about it. Sitting in Mumbai, and I can tell you can't have a better bandwidth than what Mumbai is supposed to be having it. Yet we have this kind of a problem. Anyway, having talked about it, I think the most important thing is that of really developing that lifelong learning ability itself. I have to be a lifelong learner, and I'll come to it as to what it would be requiring. Another part of it is the skills. Obviously, what Dr. Mantha said, the whole idea resonates with my kind of thinking. And it isn't just merely the higher order skills that the universities may teach, but even some of the lower order skills, that is, ability to do work, is extremely important. Now, I look at it very interestingly that there is one spectrum which is a vocational skill sets. The other is higher education, to which we all belong to. But between the two, and I say there is a crevice, and in this crevice comes a whole range of many certificate courses of the kind that Dr. Manda was talking about, whether this is in the area of automation skills, this is in the area of, let us say, the digital skills that we are talking about it in the business or in execution, or it is in the area of robotics, or it is in the area of analytics, etc., or even in the area of some of the visual arts and the fine arts, the creativity, the filmmaking as an example, for that matter, let us say, a whole range of things that one can really think about it. So there is a lot of space that is today now. This space is now getting expanded. And I would imagine that a whole range of a development is going to be happening. And that will help a large number of students to really explore their talent. And not only talent, but also to take up careers that will interest them, which is where they want to make their life. And not really something which I have to do because there is a peer pressure. Many students come into engineering courses, or for that matter, let us say, go to the medical courses, etc., because there is a peer pressure. As right in the beginning, Mr. Subbarao said, that he dropped the mathematics in 10th standard, and Dr. Rao, even I dropped my mathematics from my 10th standard when I was studying in Delhi. And I said, and my mathematics teacher told me that you cannot do mathematics at all. And I said, thank you very much, sir. And I'll walk out of the mathematics class, and then moved into English literature. I believe that understanding English literature or going through the literature courses helped me to become a much better person than what I would have been if I would have only continued with the mathematics and then gone through the medical or an engineering route. Anyway, that's another story. The third big area, which I think will help me to prepare for future, is the change management. Willingness to change. Today, the human being is by nature resistant to change. I have a comfort zone. I want to stay in that comfort zone. And so therefore, from that kind of a point of view, I think it is important to really develop those kind of change management skills. Now let's look at this new generation, the Gen Z. Now, what are some of the key characteristics of this, the profile that I really have all along spent my time with, whether this was Gen X, Gen Y, then Gen Z, and everything. I think one of the most important things is this is a generation which is a technology generation. This is a tech generation. They've played with the technology right from their birth. And so therefore, from that kind of a point of view, they're the natives. I call them, they are the natives of the technology world. Their awareness level is very high. They have a whole lot of information. They have an access to a lot of information. But I must say they are muddled up because there is so much of things happening in their mind that they're not able to logically think about it. And therefore, it is education, higher education, the universities and schools that have got to prepare them for this kind of a logical thinking. And therefore, I also see them as having a limited attention span. And above all, but the most important thing is, this is a generation that is wanting to experiment. It isn't unusual today to see an engineer deciding not to go in a technology career and moving away completely to the film acting as a very interesting example, or going over to, let us say, music or fine arts or visual arts, etc. Or medical going over to management, or management going over to philosophy and then becoming an academic and stuff like that. So that's something which is there. Now, this really is a very big question to all of us in education. What is the value in higher education that we are giving? What is the value in the degree education? And I think if we have to prepare the student, we have to respond to this kind of a question if we don't want to really lose out a generation today in this country, unless and until we really repack our education.
Right.
And value in education really goes up. I don't think things were really going to be happening. And how does that really happen? And that's where I would say there's one very important part. Maybe I'm going to take a minute more, Dr. Kunal, right?
No problem.
It may have, we got to accept the fact that education and work will now intermingle. The old model is now changing from 20 years of education, right from 5 years or 4 years of age, going up to my post-graduation, and then coming to the work and then spending the rest of my life in work. This model is now going to be changing. with shorter modules, with shorter number of years, much lesser number of years, in education, and then lesser number of years in work, and then coming back again. So work, learn, work, relearn, unlearn. That is the kind of a part that is going to be happening around. Now, as a higher educationist, we got to prepare for this kind of a situation. And the national education policy has talked about it from the perspective of, or it is enabling it through, let us say, the multiple exit and entry kind of options, and also the academic bank of credits. Now, let's take a look at it from this now point of view, lifelong learning. How do we really move forward? Because we have got to be ready for this flexibility and fluidity. So what is it that now we got to be ready with? What is it that the student would be required to now going through? Most important thing is an attitude. We got to develop an attitude of a learner. The most important, unfortunately, what has happened, the moment the student joins a management program, for example, or an engineering program, he wants a job. An MBA student is looking for only a placement. So we all turn into becoming nothing but the placement factories itself. We prepare them for the placements. The attitude which is important, the learning attitude which is important, that doesn't get developed. And therefore, some of the skills that are really required are, in terms of the learning skills, for example, I find that these are 5 major skills that we need to be really focusing on. One is in the area of critical thinking. And I think we need to really focus on developing the critical thinking. How does one really develop that? That's a separate subject matter. One can talk about it on another day. Reflection. How does the student reflect on what is really he's learning? Whether this is in the classroom or it is in the field. Because classroom alone is not the source of learning. Teacher alone is not the source of learning. Multiple sources of learning today exist, and the student must learn from all those sources. The 360-degree of learning must be enabled in the higher education. So reflection is important. I also believe that another part that is there is that of learning from multiple platforms, not just merely, as I said, classroom, but also at multiple platforms, not just merely limited to Google, the Google Master, but then going into the various kinds of levels that are there. There are multiple platforms that are learning platforms that are there. Collaboration, collaborative learning is important. How do I learn from others? If I don't learn from others, I don't think I'll be able to really grow in terms of my thinking, in terms of my ability to relate to what is really happening around me. And adaptability is another part. So collaborative learning, to my mind, is extremely important. And the next part of it is the innovation and creativity. That is another big skill set and another big vertical on which we have to focus on developing those skill sets in innovations and creativity. And this is again another area. Complex problem solving. All problems in life are complex, yet we tend to talk about a linear problem solving. It happened this way. This was a problem on this day, and this is what my solution would be. The fact is, environment is changing, complexity is increasing, and therefore there is no reason, if I don't understand, that I should understand how am I going to solve the complex problem, and which is where the data science comes in, which is where your ability to, let's say, the whole understanding of the circular economy comes in, which is where I think, to my mind, what comes up very strongly is my ability to relate to the entire ecosystem. So the understanding of the ecosystem becomes extremely critical. So let me conclude by saying that if I have to be ready for tomorrow, then I need to accept the fact that apart from this that I have said, I have also to be able to manage my own stress. That because any change leads to stress. Now, if I'm not able to manage my own stress, I'm not able to manage my own emotions, then I'm afraid anything that we will learn he will never be able to utilize. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. It was really indeed a wonderful speech on what I asked. It was even beyond what is answered. So thank you very much, sir, for that. Dear audience, we had to excuse Mr. Subba Rao. He has locked out of the event because he had a flight to catch. So, in his absence here, I would like to thank him for his presence. Going forward, sir, what you said, Professor Rajan, you have, brought out so many things related to what the new world requires, what is the new understanding, the new ecosystem, what best can be done, bringing technology in the center seat, technology being a part of a child's, birth right now. It's just through technology also birth is happening today. Change management, long life learning, people skills, the list goes on. It was wonderful. So thank you very much. And that is what we at Presidency do. At Presidency University, being a 40-year-old legacy, 40-plus-year-old legacy in the city of Bangalore, whatever is being emphasized here is no new science to us, because we try to bring in each of these things, and every single candidate of ours who tries to enroll is just, information to the world, which I am saying that this is what Presidency's actual foundation is laid upon. Moving upon to our next speaker for the day. Can we have the profile of the next speaker, please? We move on to the next speaker, Dr. R.C. Sharma, Associate Professor, School of Global Affairs, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar University, Delhi. Dr. R.C. Sharma is an Associate Professor, as I have mentioned. He is an MSc, MAd, PhD in Educational Technology, MCA, having expertise in the field of e-learning, instructional design, open educational resource, open and distance learning, teacher education, educational technology, and education research. I think sir breeds only education, nothing else. He was also working with many international universities like Wasasan Open University, Malaysia, visiting professorship. Then Brazil visiting professorship he has got. With University of Fiji he has worked, University of Ghana he has worked, South America, Indira Gandhi International Open University, IGNU, as we all know, as a regional director, he has put in his experience in and also as a lecturer for education at Chotu Ram College of Education, Haryana. Sir, we welcome you. And we also have, a question, before you start, okay, and just including it as a part of your speech. Though sir has spoken about so many things related to career spanning across various decades, but my question still remains the same about learning and unlearning with you as well. So over to you. So you can unmute yourself, you're mute. We can see your screen.
Now it's okay, sir. Please go ahead.
Please go ahead, sir. It is visible. It is visible, sir. Please go ahead.
And you can hear me also?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, Kunalji. And now I'm really apprehensive. What should I say after all these wonderful presentations by the experts before me? So really I was so keenly listening to all these wonderful thoughts which have been shared by the speakers before me. Let me just think. Everybody knows him, Albert Einstein. There is one very famous story, and I think maybe intentionally or unintentionally, Deepakji and you have made my session after Rajan sir, when he was talking about the skills and the questions and are we ready to change or those things wonderfully. I think my presentation fits very well here. When Albert Einstein was teaching at Princeton, the examination university conducts, and he has his teaching assistant. So this exam was to conduct, and he gave the question paper to the teaching assistant that distributed to the students. And out of curiosity, that the teaching assistant had a look at the question paper, and he was perplexed to see that is the same question paper which was given last year. And he approached Einstein that, sir, are you sure this is the right question paper? He said, yes. But it is the same question paper which was repeated, given in the last semester. So Einstein had a look at, yes, it is the same question, but you know, the answers have changed. So that is very unique thing. Means the questions remains the same, but the answers have changed. And what thus this leads to is another very famous personality. I think nobody in the world knows, means does not know who he is. And very recently, I came to know about this quote supposed to be said by Bruce Lee. The last sentence is what caught my eye, and I find it very, very relevant. That what you are not changing, you are also choosing it. And that made me think that if we are not changing something, it means we are choosing it. And that's why when we say about something about education, we think of various ills and limitations and something. I think this fits very well. Are we changing it? And if we are not changing it, it means we are choosing it. And if we are choosing it, then we don't have any right to complain about it. Let us go to South America. As Kunalji told, I was director of distance education in University of Guyana, which is just down in South America, one of the Caribbean countries. This is Honduras, the beautiful scenery which I'm showing you here. And here is the full picture of it. You see there is a bridge. This is named as Choluteca Bridge, which is around 500 meters long in Honduras. This Honduras is very notorious for storms and hurricanes. So every time there was storm, hurricane, etc., the government decided that let us make a bridge over the river so that the population doesn't suffer. And they commissioned a firm from Japan who constructed this bridge in 1998. Which was a modern marvel of engineering designed to withstand the powerful forces of nature. Let it be rains or hurricanes or whatever it can come from the nature. But it turns out when this bridge was built in 1998, in the same year, Honduras, it was hit by a hurricane. I think it was Hurricane Mitch, which caused considerable damage to the nation and its infrastructure. So many other bridges were damaged, but this Choluteca bridge, it survived in near perfect condition. See, nothing happened to the bridge. But if you note something very strange, what has happened here is that the roads on either side of the bridge, they completely vanished, leaving no visible trace of their prior existence. And more impressively, this Choluteca River, which is several hundred feet wide, has carved itself a new channel. You see, previously this bridge was built over the river, and now the river has changed its course there during the massive flooding caused by that hurricane. So it no longer flowed beneath the bridge, which is now spanned by the ground. And the bridge nowadays they popularly called as the bridge to nowhere. It doesn't. Now, this has a lesson for all of us. When we focus on creating the best solution for a given problem. And what is that? We forget that the problem itself might change. We focus on building the most sophisticated product or service without thinking that the requirement could evolve or the market could vanish. As sir, prior to my speech was saying that we need to think of what is going to happen in the future. Are we ready for that? There. And this lesson could not be more relevant to the current times. Instead of built to last, you know, the companies in the older time, I know when you had a fan, it will say that it will keep on running like that. So instead of built to last, which has been the popular corporate mantra in the past, we need to focus on build to adapt. It seems certainly to be the way to go into the future. Another thing which we should be concerned very seriously
with us in keeping is the Sabretooth Curriculum. It is a famous work of created under the pseudonym J. Abner Padiwall. This curriculum is considered as a classic work which illustrates how unexamined traditions of schooling can result in the resistance to needed change. We don't want to change. And as Bruce Lee said, if we are not changing, we are choosing it. And this book represents a series of lectures by Professor Padiwal on the topic of Stone Age education. So this curriculum holds that education started with fish grabbing, horse clubbing, or tiger scaring long before reading, writing, or arithmetic, the 3 R's of adult education, which we popularly know as. And after these original 3 subjects were established, it became difficult to change the curriculum. So the Sabretooth curriculum generally means enjoining in traditional ways and old systems of education, which embodies people's resistance to change and hesitancy to embrace the innovation, even if it is only way for survival and what the age calls for. I'm reminded of a very interesting thing. Just 2-3 years ago, I had gone to Delhi University for a webinar. Means it was a faculty development program. It was at that time there was no webinar. It was all face to face. And there was this person, a teacher from some university. He was saying that, sir, online कुछ नहीं होता जब तक हम personally face to face नहीं पढ़ा लेते, ये नहीं होगा, वो नहीं होगा, and nothing like that. I said, okay, let us see. Then come 2020, the virus, which is invisible to our eye, shifted all of us to the online mode of education, because education must continue. And at that time, I was thinking about that colleague, कि आजकल वो कैसे मैनेज कर रहे हैं, उस वक्त तो इंटरेस्टेड नहीं थे सीखने, बट अब सबने ही ऑनलाइन पढ़ाना है, ऑनलाइन स्टूडेंट्स ने पढ़ना है, तो बेचारा कैसे उन्होंने मैनेज किया होगा उसको. That was my a major thing. So I think what we need to have, and particularly for learn, unlearn, and about to make our students future ready, there are few things which every teacher should be aware of. So I will show you 4 resources. One is this Horizon report, which is very important document. Till 2-3 years ago, I was representing India in this when it was being published by New Media Consortium, NMC. New Media Consortium was a non-profit organization. Now it has been taken over by EduPOS, and every year they bring out this Horizon report, in which they try to understand that how the education field is going to change. And they divided it into some like 1 to 2 years, 2 to 3 years, and beyond 4-5 years, what are various things they are going to. So first, I suggest that one must read this report, which is very important document. Now, as the speakers before me raised certain concerns about pedagogy. Pedagogy is very important thing for teaching, learning, effectiveness. And UK Open University, which was the first open university of the world, established somewhere around 1960-62. For the past many years now, over a decade, they have been bringing about this innovative pedagogy report. And there they try to identify what are the important pedagogies emerging out of 4th industrial revolution. And as Rajan sir was saying, that we live in a complex world. And I was remembering about the VUCA world, VUCA, which is volatile, which is uncertain, which is complex, and which is ambiguous. It fits very well into it. How do we survive into it? Because it's a question of how do we take care of these things. So this innovative. The third is the as nowadays, due to social media impact, due to online technologies, things going online, huge data is being generated. Everything, whatever it is being done, it generates a lot of data. And not only if it is only on online, even if it is online, all the institutions, they have a lot of data with them. How to make, so learning analytics, big data analytics, not only as a thing, but just to understand that how the learning is happening in our institution, whether learning is happening at all or not. I think you were asking one question from Subbarao ji about the low GER, gross enrollment ratio. And I'm reminded of one article which I read many years ago. We want everybody to be educated. Okay, it's a ideal. It's a very good philosophy. But really, seriously, do we think that all the population is ready, or are they means competent enough? Why to force those people who are not fit into that? And why can't we divert their energy into those channels, like we say of the skills? It's not
Right.
the pure kind of education which is needed. So this learning analytics. And lastly, the mobile technology has taken over the world through everything. Almost every activity we are performing now using our mobile phone. And for that, what is happening, how it is being taken care of, UNESCO for the past few years is conducting somewhere around October, November. Last year could not happen due to the pandemic changes, etc. But this is a very good event, and they must see how it is being taken care of. So I would like to conclude that by some research at the University of Sydney, in which some researchers, they found that there are certain factors they have identified that why the students do not engage with the course readings. And the main four factors which they pointed out were that the unpreparedness due to the language deficits, time constraints, lack of motivation, and underestimating the importance of reading. So what needs to be done then? If there is a problem, we need to suggest some solution. This is just that. Maybe we can offer pre-class activities either online or like via learning management systems, or as Rajan sir was saying, through collaborative tools. And there are many like collaborative apps, etc. which are there. We need to set clear expectations and strategies on what, how, why, and how, etc. these things. And we can avoid the cognitive overload. The cognitive, particularly I remember now due to these webinars, there are established reports in the media where the kids, they have openly complained now कि सर ये कब बंद होगा, हम परेशान हो गए, because सवेरे से लेके शाम तक टीचर्स वेबिनार पर वेबिनार वो लगा रखा है उनको ऑनलाइन कंप्यूटर के सामने बिठा कर. Cognitive overload, not only during this webinar period, non-webinar period, pre-COVID, post-COVID, whatever will happen, we need to take care of these things. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Sharma. Thank you very much. You have given us a 360-degree approach of everything, starting from the bridge, where the bridge is there, but the course changed. That was really shocking. And that is how it is. You're actually very right, sir. By the time we come up with foolproof preparation for anything, the course changes and then you start rebuilding, and again the course changes, again you start rebuilding. And that is one of the philosophies at university, and probably the next speaker is going to throw a lot of light on this, because he, being a very able leader for the team, is going to say how the course changes in this domain, especially the area where we work upon. But sir, the kind of focus you brought upon the VUCA world, data, learning analytics, the competency, mobile technology, students not engaging with the course, the kind of statistics you brought in, fascinating. Thank you very much. So dear audiences, now we are going to move to the next speaker, and probably not the last, I should say, but yeah, as per our list, we are going to now hear from Mr. Supriyo Guha Roy, Director, Presidency, University. Mr. Supriyo is a chemical engineer from Jadavpur University, Calcutta, and an alumnus of IIM Bangalore. He started his career with ICI Limited with their research and development wing, and after a brief stint, moved on to ONGC, where he was awarded for successfully testing and completing very high pressure gas wells in Krishna Godavari Basin. First of their kind in India at that particular point of time. Post completion of his management education from IIM Bangalore, he joined Wipro and then moved on to Aditya Birla Group and handled various positions in project appraisal, market research, global business development functions. And after a decade-long stint with Aditya Birla Group, he joined Forbes and Company, a Shapoorji Pallonji Group company, where he headed a special business of energy efficiency and hybrid power generation using biomass and solar energy. Oh, I didn't know about this, sir. But any which ways, I have a question for you before you starting. All the learned speakers till now have spoken a lot about future-proof career, but I would like to give you a tough question here. How multidimensional and multi-model education can create resilient learners? What is your advice to the next gen to build a future-proof career here? Just to sum it up, we welcome sir, you on this podium. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kunal. And, as you have pointed out, I'm the last speaker in the panel today. And before me, there was a galaxy of very eminent educationalists who already spoke. So there is a disadvantage and there is an advantage as well. Disadvantage is that most of the things on the topic has been spoken, but I have advantage because I can possibly preparing the next gen for a future-proof career. I was trying to pose myself as a protagonist in the whole drama. I'm trying to act like more of a learner, a student. So what I'm going to do in the next couple of minutes is basically present the whole topic as a problem statement. What's happening around the world and what the challenge is. Then I will try to point out what could be a likely solution, and finally end up by telling that whether the solution will work, is there a proof that the solution works? Okay, so let me try this out this way. So to start with, in fact, I will just refer to seminal work done by one of the great futurologists, who is no more of course now, is Buckminster Fuller. In one of his studies during the late 80s and 90s, he actually developed a concept what he called during those days as a knowledge unit. And in fact, he defined one knowledge unit is all the amount of knowledge that the human beings or human civilization gathered in the first 1500 years of its existing post-Christ. That means from AD 1 to AD 1500. He just made an assessment, and then he said that let me call this as a one knowledge unit. Then he goes on to say that the same amount of one knowledge unit was created by the human beings in the next 250 years. That means 1500 years of knowledge shrunk into the same amount of created into 50 years. And then as he goes on and on, he pointed out towards end of 20th century, 2 years was required to create the knowledge that was being created in 1500 years in the first phase and the 250 years in the second phase, and etc. So now if you just actually extend this concept further, some researchers are pointing out that sometimes in the 2030s and 2040s, probably it will take 2 weeks to create that kind of a knowledge. So this is my problem statement. What the present day learners, the students who are about to enter into their higher education, into the university education, they are going to face a very different kind of a challenge, because the knowledge obsolescence, the amount of knowledge that they learn today, and I think, Professor Mantha was also pointing out that the self-life of knowledge is going to, sharply drop. Is going to have a very, very short self-life. Right, and therefore another speaker talked about, I think Professor Rajan was talking about, lifelong learning process could be one of the solutions. I'll come to that. So I have defined the problem statement for the present generation learners is that going forward, the amount of knowledge that they acquire during their university stint and probably immediately into the work arena as they enter into the work life, it's going to have a very short, self-life. So that is going to create a challenge for their career and how to make it future-proof. So I come to a likely solution. And while talking about the likely solution, let me lightly take the example of our Indian mythology. The Holy Trinity we have in our mythology, the Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshwar. Brahma is the creator, Vishnu is the sustainer, and Maheshwar is the destroyer. We just correlate the process of learn, apply, and then unlearn. That's going to be the formula in brief, that needs to be adopted by the current generation of learners, right, as they go forward. During this seminar, we have been talking about the various kind of challenges that's going to come forward, because we are going to have advancement of the technology taking place in such a great speed that every aspect of our life is likely to be affected, right? Obviously, all the routine kind of jobs, be it the manual kind of job, or even the ones that application of mind, are likely to be automated. It will be done through automated processes, through artificial intelligence, manual jobs, or the jobs in the factories will be taken over by the robotics, etc. So definitely there is going to be a great challenge. There is no second thought about it. So what's going to be the solution? The solution, as I've already pointed out, and my various other speakers before me have pointed out, is that the solution is basically to create for oneself a process where they are constantly able to unlearn and relearn, discover, oneself. That's the process that one has to attempt. It may appear a little theoretical as I'm speaking. So I thought that when I give the solution, I must also present a proof whether this kind of a solution works or not. And Kunal, let me tell you with full confidence, the proof is in front of us. I'm making it a little dramatic, but the proof is the panel itself. I can tell with a high degree of assurance that all the speakers who are here in this panel, during their school lives, they have not even seen a computer. Computer may have been heard, more of a concept, but they have not operated on a computer during the school lives. Probably the luckier ones had worked on a computer when they entered into their higher education. But here, the same set of people are talking about not only that, they have rediscovered themselves, they have unlearned and relearned. So today they're at the cutting edge of technology and able to advise the today's generation of learners, the Gen Z and beyond, today's generation of learners as to what to be done. They are able to basically, project into the future. And this ability of this set of, education itself is a proof that if you undertake this journey of constantly learn and upgrade yourself, right, keep pace with as to what's happening and not be stuck. My previous speaker, Dr. Sarma, was pointing out about the issue of change. So one has to understand this concept of change management. One has to keep the eyes and ears open constantly. The students, the learners of today must keep their eyes and ears open, right? Be, constantly participating in discussion forums like this, right? And not be stuck with what the textbook prescribes as a curriculum, right? The curriculum, of course, has to undergo changes. We have to, the first speaker, Mr. Subbarao, pointed out that we need to basically bring in lot of internships, and the internships does not mean what we today define in an university education, that sending them to very well-known companies. No, the internship can happen with a small MSME enterprise next door. Probably they are manufacturing a very small equipment, or they are even into the service sector, right? People can go into the microcredit segment, understand what are the issues of the self-help groups which operate in our rural segment, and empower, the disadvantaged people. This could be an internship. People can go and work with the farmers. People can go and work with, small, people who are operating at the grassroots level. So these kind of internships are going to give excellent exposure to the students of today, right? And give them the trigger, give them the right kind of pathway, so that they become lifelong learners. You see that I have invitation, of course, but in the interest of the time, I just modified it, right? But then I will still touch upon the point that you made, that what should be the multidimensional and multimodal learning. The multidimensional learning has already been talked about. Going forward, the so-called silos or the barriers between science, fundamental science subjects like physics, chemistry, mathematics, etc., and the social sciences, where it is economics, psychology, etc., exist, and then the liberal arts and the creative domains. These barriers are going to get gradually erased. So people are going to undertake a journey. In fact, my advice is that the students must undertake a journey into what we call as a T-shaped learning, right? They will have a very horizontal exposure with a in-depth exposure into one particular domain that they want to focus on. So this T-shaped learning is going to give the necessary wherewithal, the weapon to remain relevant in the future world. And that is how they can become future-proof. That's one. The other part was the multimodal aspect, and I'm happy to say, and the educationists here on the panel will agree with me that NEP 2020 has been a great eye, because NEP 2020 really focuses on this multimodal concept of learning. Because I believe, as an individual and being part of the education segment, that the learning in future is going to undertake a form, what I call as a PDF form of learning. PDF is not a text editor here. The PDF stands for personalized, distributed, and flexible. That's what I call as a multimodal learning. So the going forward, what I want to learn is a personal job. Not I have to take whatever, my degree program or my postgraduate program is going to offer. I can create my own curriculum. I can create my own course from several buckets that is being presented to me. It's like a buffet. It's like a buffet lunch or buffet dinner. The spread is in front of me. I pick up exactly what I want to consume. That's personalized form of learning. Secondly, I do not want to be stuck in a classroom, right? I can learn on the go. So the technology will be able to offer me my learning on the go, whether I'm traveling in a bus or on a train or sitting in my hostel room or I'm back in my village. Technology will bring the learning to my doorstep or on my laptop. Okay, so that's the distributed form of learning. That's what I want. And the third one is flexible, because there are multiple exit points that has been offered into our NEP 2020. So learning will be flexibility that when I want to learn a certain part of my targeted learning for the first 1 year. Then I go out and I work in the industry. I work with, or maybe I become an entrepreneur, right? And after 2 years of applying my learning, I come back for my relearning exercise, right? And this flexibility will actually ensure that the cycle, it is like a regeneration. The cycle continues, right? So therefore, in a nutshell, I will conclude by saying that the real crux of the matter of future-proof, building a future-proof career lies in this process, which has been actually triggered or kickstarted by our new NEP 2020. And the universities are collaborating, universities are working together, universities are innovating, and I'm sure that very soon we'll see a huge explosion in the learning domain, where the students will have a great choice to pick up what they want to learn and how they become, in terms of their learning process, how they become self-learners, they become lifelong learners and build a future. In a nutshell, this is what.
Wonderful,
Thank you so
sir.
much.
Wonderful, sir. Thank you very much. You have summed it up in terms of a multi-dimensional and a multimodal answer in terms of education domain. Thank you very much for your input, sir. So, dear audience, now we have come to the last leg of our panel discussion, and it's my humble request to each of the panelists, please switch on your cameras, and I'll be putting up a question as per what we have got from the audiences till now, and each panelist, I again request, my humble request, please take 45 seconds to a minute to answer that, looking at the paucity of time. Thank you very much. So the first question I'd like to post to Dr. Mantha. Dr. Mantha, sir, are you here? Yeah. So, sir, the question for you I have from one of the attendees is, as per the economic survey, it has been mentioned that the students of the public schools don't have access to the gadgets and other so-called tech devices, and there is a big inequality of the resources in our country as well as of now. How do you throw some light in terms of the resolving or resilience of the above issue, and what are the strategies should be adopted in the future for this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there is a digital divide which we possibly cannot ignore. In the last year and a half, we have seen a lot of that happening with people unable to access, don't have smart devices, don't have PCs. and cannot get onto any system because of bandwidth issues and so on. So there is a role for the private sector as well as the government here. And as far as the government, I mean, is concerned, they can provide, multiple points of access at different locations and take the help of, BSNL network that's available. The private sector can come in with smart devices and so on, low cost devices which can do what is required rather than providing all those fancy things on a mobile. Having said that, the government can also get onto the low band spectrum, which can be made available for viewing and also can track the cable TV in order to reach out to every house in the villages and so on. So there are multiple ways of doing it. One other area where we are working currently is also creating a mobile, van kind of study center. Instead of the village moving into the cities or onto systems where they can get access to a mobile van equipped with, PCs and they can move in the villages. What it means is classroom getting onto the villages, and they can use the multiple, Wi-Fi spots which are provided by the government. So there are a lot of ways of doing that.
Okay, and also in continuation, and this is another question, but I would request you to just take 30 seconds here. Because of the pandemic, what has happened, since you come from the government background, what has happened is, a lot of professionals like professors, teachers, and others had a big hit on their wages and, so-called monthly honorarium as salaries, which has made them professionally very poor. What recommendations you make for the government to help these professionals? I mean, that's a direct question to you, asking what can be done in this situation with the educational fraternity torchbearers.
This is a question
for you, sir.
Yeah, okay. No, a lot of things can be done. I mean, first of all, there can't be a situation where salaries are not paid and so on. So that's a separate entity to be looked at. My view is the government and the regulators must step in and correct the situation. I mean, as a short answer is that. Otherwise, there are several other ways of looking at it, both where the government comes in with much more, invasive activities and so on. But I think pandemic or no pandemic, I mean, withholding the salaries or, that's not done. And as far as the technical issues are concerned, I mean, the teachers have to train themselves, retrain themselves, get onto the new mode of delivery of education. They have to, constantly keep upgrading themselves. So all that is very, very important.
Right, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Next question I'd like to pose to Professor Rajan Saxena. Sir, can you hear me? You can unmute yourself, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, I would like to take the name of the person also. It's from Som Dua. Now the question here is, it's more or less on entrepreneurial background. Can we talk about entrepreneurship skills? And if yes, then what is the role of mentoring skills for having, future, which is having a security in terms of working in that particular domain, possessing those skills?
Kunal, somewhere I lost you.
I repeat the question, sir. I repeat the question.
Was one that I got.
Yeah.
And what was the next part?
What is the role of mentoring in terms of having a future-proof career? So I have simplified the question for you, re-paraphrased it for you.
All right. I think, the new economy that we are going to be talking about is going to be crafted by the entrepreneur. That is for certain. And if we look at something that things that have been recently been happening, particularly in the area of, let's say, some of the IPOs or the unicorns that are there today. Many of the edtech companies today, which have now moved to becoming unicorn, they are all entrepreneurial companies. So, to my mind, when we will look at, let's say, another 5 years afterwards or 10 years afterwards, when we will look at the let's say the ranking of the companies on the basis of their valuations as an example, we may be surprised by the fact that there are companies that have been that have just got off to a start, and they are going to be right in the top 10. It's not really some of those old established companies which are there, which have strong brands. And we have seen that as a continuously happening around. We don't see, for example, companies like Coca-Cola among the top 10, but we would see them somewhere down below. It's the technology companies that are there today. Now, having said that, my thinking is that entrepreneurial skills cannot be taught as much as they are going to be developed, and which is where the incubation comes into a very important place. And incubation, if let us say the incubation facilities are created in the institution, and the students are encouraged through a whole lot of processes, for example, the business plan contests, or let us say an idea contests, or for let's say giving a problem and getting people to work on that problem and coming out with those ideas, and then some of those ideas really move towards the, let's say, startup kind of a phase, and they really, get into the incubation, and there are a whole lot of facilities then that get created there in the incubation center itself. One such element in this whole incubation process is mentoring by not just merely successful entrepreneurs, but even by those who have been unsuccessful. Because one learns from the failure as much as, or perhaps much more, than only from those who have really made it big or who have made it to the unicorn stage. I think those who are still struggling, or those who have really failed in their initiatives, this is a very big. So mentoring plays a very significant role, and I think what happens is that mentoring, a good mentor who comes in can really help the entrepreneur prepare for some of these kinds of contingencies that are there. And once again, an important thing in an entrepreneur's life will have to be continuous change. You cannot continue with the same product, the same kind of a solution that you have come up with, though you may be ready to that. But the fact is, very rightly said, the problem itself may change the course, in which case, I think the entrepreneurs are always characterized by ability to adapt very quickly, that the rapid pace at which they are able to adapt. That is something which is important.
Got it, sir. Got it. Thank you very much. Next question. I won't pose it as a question now. The next one, I would like, Mr. Supriyo Guha Roy to take it up. So, can we have you on the screen?
Yes.
Now, this is in regards to the online evaluation system. Since you come from the university background in terms of your present role, sir, the question posed here is, how to make the online evaluation system more foolproof so that the recruiters don't have any issue with the quality of the graduating batch. So, in terms of the online, offline scenarios of the graduating batch, how do you want? Or what are your suggestions for making the system foolproof in that case?
What we see in the university is that many of the top level recruiters have their own processes to do the evaluation, and many of these processes are already online. They have national level tests, which is the first level of screening that is done. And then the qualifying students move to the next round, and then finally, possibly to the HR round. These processes are adopted by the companies using technology. See, ultimately, technology is used as a backbone for creating systems and processes. Now, if the particular question is referring to whether there is a possibility to, you know, cheat during an online examination or bypass, you know, the normal assessment process. The answer is that the technology is now developing to such an extent that it is possible that the examinee is being constantly watched while writing an online paper. Okay, so therefore, universities are already aware of the various proctoring systems that exist, right? Sometimes the proctoring system can be AI based, so that the student trying to move away from one screen to another itself will be detected. The student is turning the head or trying to talk to someone will be detected. So the online proctoring system is robust enough today to ensure that any kind of bypassing the existing assessment process wouldn't be possible for a student who is writing an online examination. For the recruiting companies, as I already pointed out, they have a well-set system, or they can use the university's existing systems to ensure that the students are assessed properly. And then obviously any recruitment process, you know, that ends up with a face-to-face interaction. Right. So that's a point of view. The recruiter checks the students' attitude, orientation, you know, the possibility of fitting into a culture, etc., which is the typically the HR process. And definitely even if it is done, you know, on a what is called a video chat form using an online platform like we are using WebEx right now. We can use Zoom, or you can use Microsoft Teams, or for that matter, any other web chat form. It is possible for the interviewing person to even judge very effectively about the students, you know, and overall disposition. So in a nutshell, I don't see that online processes are a challenge as such, right, in order to ensure a very rational evaluation of the candidate.
Right. Thank you very much for throwing some light on this aspect, sir. Now, probably we are on the last question for the day. And this question is posed for Dr. Ramesh Sharma. Sir, can you hear me? I see you are on a phone call, Dr. Ramesh. I think sir is
Sir,
busy
I would
right
like to add something to the question.
Please, sir, please.
Hello.
Yes.
Sir. When we are talking about online examination or evaluation system, online evaluation system, what I found or I feel, because we are also getting online test through initial testing agency. But we all heard about turn it in software. That software is made to check the plagiarism of your content. Simply what software is doing, you post the content on the software and it will find from the web of the world that your content is plagiarized or not. Again, what we can do for evaluation of the material for graduate students, it can be reversed process through AI, artificial intelligence again, and it can such kind of software developed through artificial intelligence and through same mechanism can help us to evaluate the content. Thank you.
Right, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Now, dear participants, we have come to the fag end of our program today, and it was really indeed such a great honor, to listen from all the industry and academia stalwarts for the topic preparing the next gen for a future-proof career, where we heard from Mr. Subbarao, we heard from Mr. Supriya, we heard from Professor Rajan, Dr. S.S. Mantha, Dr. Ramesh Sharma, Dr. Sunil. All of them put together have given us, I think, enough of information which can help us, build a shield in terms of preparing ourselves for the future proofing. As of now, I would use the word future proofing only. So coming to the final leg, the word of thanks, I would like to thank each one of you, all the panelists here who have given their time to us today in terms of, disseminating this information and making this tough question somewhat easy for the educational fraternity people, the respected professors, the students who are listening to us, and all the participants from all across the world who have been witnessing this event. I would like to thank the organizers also, Team ASSOCHAM. I would, sincerely like to thank Mr. Deepak Chabra, Mr. Neeraj Arora, also one person behind the show, Mr. Rajkumar Chakravarti, who has been very much instrumental in terms of making us connect online today. We at Presidency University believe that you have to attain more knowledge to reach greater heights. And when we talk about all the new age programs getting ready for the 4.0 industry and having the manpower also for the 4.0 industry, we are proficient enough based in Bangalore. We talk about all the programs related to AI, data science, machine learning, DevOps, smart cities, robotics, game design, communication design, space design, all these programs being offered in Presidency as of now in order to make the future generation ready, not only in engineering, but also in the management programs as well. So taking leave from all of you, it's been quite a long time. We have been listening to all the people. Thank you very much, Team ASSOCHAM. Thank you, all the panelists present over here, respected dignitaries from different walks of life. Thank you very, very much for making this event a grand success at the end. This is your host, Dr. Kunal, taking leave for the day. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And special thanks to Dr. Kunal Saxena for the wonderful moderation and keeping the entire discussion very interactive. So
thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Kunal Saxena. Yeah, and thank you, eminent speakers.
Thank you.
We hope that we all will meet physically one fine day very soon.
Certainly, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Manda sir. Thank you, Rajan sir. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Namaskar.
Thank you, Mary sir. Thank you, Sharma ji.
Namaskar.
Namaskar, sir. Thank you.
Deepak sir?
Yes, sir.
Are we offline now?
Yes, sir, please. Sir,
ठीक
you
है,
may
sir.
please leave the, I will give you a call, sir. Thank you.
Right.